when we now look at the global need for transportation hubs and I guess mobility, what I've just done here is highlight a few of the different projects that are directly relevant to this work. And one of them I'll tease out in a minute, which is the CPK project in Poland. But that's a project, for example, which is a main new airport, 2,500 kilometers of rail. Ultimately, there's road connectivity. So the need for a standardized approach here to deliver those efficiencies, and we want to remember that what we're trying to achieve, as Doug said at the outlet, is more economic activation for the airports, but we also want to reduce the cost of operation. We want to reduce the risk of operation, and we also want to be able to provide environmental and social benefits, better user experience for customers, for staff, for contractors, reduce carbon emissions, and so on. So as you can see on the screen, I've picked a few different projects. In Ukraine, for example, I think we're all aware of the devastation there. There's $1 trillion of reconstruction required. It's effectively going to be building a new country. Through Africa at the moment with Charter Cities Institute, there's 33 greenfield cities to be built where all of these principles and processes can be and will need to be applied. In my home country of Australia and with New Zealand, there's $200 billion of transport and infrastructure projects now for which this work is directly relevant. In New South Wales, $15 billion project with seaports, rail and airports connectivity. And then if we move over the slide now, Doug, I'll be able to take people through an example, which is actually the biggest infrastructure project in Polish history that our organisation in Warsaw is starting to work with. So if you could turn the page, Doug, please. So the CPK project, as I mentioned, is a new airport with rail hub connectivity just outside between Lodz and Warsaw. It's about a €7.5 billion project. And again, this type of approach and standardization that takes our original work from being, as I said, just airports to connectivity between airports with rail, with road, and also the final connectivity to the city for people and freight is a really important next step for the work that we're doing. As again, to Isaac's point, that system of systems approach allows us to uniquely optimize the performance of existing assets, but also reliably predict what happens to assets in the future as we might add new systems or new requirements and new modalities of transport. Yeah, okay, so the integrated passenger transport model is a really, I guess it's an example of exactly what we're doing. It's allowing the people that are designing and delivering this project to access real data, event-driven data, and to understand the consequences of the design approaches that are taken, the impact, I think, on of the changes that are going to be made over time, because obviously we're talking about multi-generational investments. So by having a data-rich and living model, the project designers, as I say, can reliably model, for example, the vertiports, model different systems, model different passenger and freight loads, and balance them all out to provide an ideally optimized outcome. So the artificial intelligence and the decision intelligence around all of this is very important. And I think there's a heavy focus on machine learning at the moment. One of the things that we can see coming at the end of this is actually machine teaching, where if we have a standardized model for airports and we have an interoperability and cyber-secure data exchange, we can, with extreme precision, provide information from one asset to another, potentially, to allow mistakes to be avoided or assumptions to be validated as we go forward. So using this digital twin-enabled system of systems model, by creating standardized playbooks, by creating efficient documents for contract procurement, project design that allow for interoperability and innovative procurement models, as a group of or a multi-consortia initiative where, as I said at the beginning, building capability and capacity on the client side, but also building a federated ecosystem and very standard procurement processes on the vendor side. And I guess to close, at a recent summit when we were talking about $200 billion of infrastructure investment with government, at the initial stage of the project, private sector was pricing in something like 30% of contingency for trying to deal with traditional procurement projects around an innovative technology platform. Now, obviously, if we can get that $60 billion down to 2 or 3 or even 5, then we're providing significant citizen and environmental benefit. And that's just another one of the, the really high value outcomes that we want to achieve from this project.